Hello, fellow Chanimals. In this section, we're going to be going through partner enablement. In this section, we'll talk about the sign-up approval, the logistics, the initial orientation and the portal overview, the first marketing meeting, the ongoing regional marketing that you'll be doing, and the SEO landing page process. We'll also discuss promotional templates, newsletters, promos, and then we'll discuss a little bit more about the ongoing training that you'll be doing with your partners. 3 phases of the partner program. We've already done the definition phase, the recruiting phase, and now we're into the enablement phase, ensuring that your partners have everything they need to be able to sell and support the product. This includes training of the product, market, competition, sales tools, the systems, the content, the lead, deal registration, leads, model calls, coaching calls, and then the ongoing motivation. We've discussed it before, but the third thing that resellers are looking for is, do you love me? So time to show some love. Within the Reseller Channel, a channel is 100% commission, indirect sales force. They take all the risk, they cover their own expenses, often provide their own leads. They can sell multiple competitors' products, so you must build loyalty to increase the reseller recommendation. So should we treat them worse or better than an inside sales employee? We should not complicate it. Channel management is sales management. The same rules apply for managing a channel as for managing a sales force. For example, would you hire a new salesperson and then not train them on your product, not provide any presentation or collateral material, no leads, no systems, have no contest, provide no motivation, have no contact for weeks, months at a time? So how come we often treat our outside sales force with so much neglect? I hear it on occasion when a vendor signs up hundreds of resellers and then says, my channel isn't selling anything, yet your internal sales team is selling. Why? You're not doing anything with your outside channel sales team. They're 100% commission and take all the risk, so you neglect them. If you paid them a salary and commission, you would not neglect them at all. The key is do the same thing as you would do with your internal sales team, and you will get similar results. So what should we do? When we're dealing with VARs, we'll have to do the onboarding. So we typically have a follow-up worksheet to keep track of everything. The initial setup that we do, the initial orientation meeting, ongoing enablement will be like the second setup, getting the product on their website, adding them to our reseller locator, promoting the product through monthly promotions, and sales would help them with the first deal, help them with the first quote, the first sale, send them a thank you letter, and work on motivation. To ensure that we're thorough with our process, there's a reseller worksheet, and here's a sample of what that looks like. In this sample that's part of your kit, there's the empty partner follow-up, and then there's a sample partner follow-up that sort of shows you how this works. If you'll see everything over here in yellow, these are the areas where I usually see some problems. Even if I connect my PRM or my partner portal in with my CRM, I still use a spreadsheet because I want to keep track of this process. So you typically add your reseller, add the contact, make note of the date that they signed, the initial setup time, the orientation enablement, and so forth. But there are some specific timeframes that you should be looking at. So for example, over here, I put this in yellow because a lot of times we need to make sure that when they sign up, we should make sure that that orientation is set up usually within 1 to 3 days max. So if we see any date that's longer than that, that shows us that we're not following a good process. So you'll notice over here that I have a date that they've signed up. If they've signed up, I want to make sure that I get them through the initial setup process immediately. Typically, I give myself 2 minutes to review their website, get them portal access to the NFR copy, send out that approval email, and then I call them up immediately to set up that orientation. In the orientation meeting, I try to set that up within 1 to 3 days after the initial sign up. That orientation typically takes me 7 minutes to go through the portal, 17 minutes to go through the product demo. And then notice on this that I have a slot here to make sure I cover every one of these specific items. Sometimes you'll be in the middle of the meeting, the phone will ring, they have to peel away and they don't come back. So you've got an incomplete orientation. You have to make sure that all of this is totally complete. I also typically have 90-day margins, and I want to make sure that they know how to place the order. And the rule is I never leave a meeting without setting up the next meeting. So if you've got comments in here that you're waiting to set that up, you did something wrong. The next thing I set up is a marketing meeting where we set up 1 promotion per month. And then I make sure that I add them to the reseller. And then if you look over here at the rest of this, you'll see After that marketing meeting, the first thing I do is typically get the product on their website. Then I list them into the reseller locator. And then I typically, once the product is on their website and it's optimized, then I'll come over and create an email campaign and often a lunch and learn. And then I continue that promotional schedule. I also make sure that when the resellers have completed their first sale, I acknowledge that by sending out an email. So this worksheet ensures that we follow an optimal process. In the initial setup, I set up the portal access. We do not allow access into our portal automatically. I've seen companies even like Salesforce. You apply and immediately you get access to that. I don't want that in case it's a competitor or even a customer that's trying to get into my portal site. We first verify that their website looks legit. Then we add them as a user manually. We then would record their NFR access ID number or whatever our process is. We put this information as to how they would access the product into the reseller approval email. Then we set up our orientation webinar meeting where we email them approval and call immediately to commit them to the orientation meeting. As soon as the reseller applies, we review their website, their application, approve with the reseller approval email, and then we call them immediately to welcome and set up the orientation meeting. Good resellers are really busy. Get this set up now. It takes an average of 7 phone calls to catch a reseller at their desk. So if they've applied, they're at their desk. That's why I give myself 2 minutes to quickly get the setup completed and make a phone call. Then I add them to the partner follow-up worksheet. Let's take a look at the acceptance email. So the elements include the introduction with all your contact information, your portal login location and information, margins, deal registration, your 90-day promotions, and then the times you'd like to do the orientation. So this is what it looks like. You're approved as an Acme partner. Please respond. Congratulations, I've reviewed it. The areas in yellow, the areas that you will make the modifications to your own, include your contact information, where the portal is located, and the password. I also want to make sure they have a demo account and NFR access and the login location for that. I then review the margins, and all margins are perpetual, and then got minimum number of sales per year. Even for my authorized partners, I try to set up some sort of an indicator that they are active if they're going to be getting perpetual commissions. Then it rolls down a little bit farther. I talk about the deal registration, the first 90-day jumpstart promotion, and then the orientation is where I try to commit them to attend this, where I can then take them through the portal site, the product, and make sure that they know how to place the order for the product. So this is what the acceptance email looks like. Next thing within the orientation meeting, I usually review the portal. And as I mentioned, I take 7 minutes to do that. I actually have a portal overview script that I use. This way, I make sure that I just cover the policies, but that I don't go overboard. I remember the occasion when I was listening in for a model call of a new channel manager, and they spent over an hour just going through the details within the portal when it should have been 7 minutes. I thought I was going to die. So this includes the complete demo script to take them all the way through and shows what you would cover and what you would not cover. And this is within the program materials. Some of your resellers will get a demo beforehand, in which case you won't cover it during the orientation. If they haven't, I'll give the product demo. The optimal length for that product demo is 17 minutes. I then talk about the 90-day special promotions that I've got, explain how to order, and then I always set up the next meeting before we go, and then I set up the next meeting. A key to reseller engagement is to never leave a meeting with a reseller without setting up the next meeting. So the onboarding recap, the initial acceptance phone call, set up the orientation date and time, the orientation meeting, set up the marketing meeting after that. After the marketing meeting, you set up the marketing execution meeting. Each month, I follow a marketing execution schedule. And then I'll set up a quarterly review and plan of action meetings where I meet with my partners once a month. So this helps to develop that personal relationship. And then I help them to run their monthly promotions, and I change my hat to a regional marketing manager role. Remember, with the channel, we don't want to neglect them. Would you hire a full-time salesperson and never meet with them? Thanks, good luck, bye. That's channel neglect. Would you set up a regional office and never coordinate and help? You want to treat them like they're your best friend who you promised you would not let them fail. For the orientation meetings, we want to do the first 10 orientations, typically one by one. So you'll go through your portal overview and your product demo, and you'll also compile any holes, information that you sort of forgot, so you can get that down. After the initial 10, then you can switch to some group orientation webinars and do it more en masse, where you might schedule 2 to 3 orientation meetings per week during the main recruiting. Let me give you an example of when I hired too many resellers all at once when we didn't have our act together. I was launching a marketing email automation software. It was the company Interspire, prelude to the launch of BigCommerce. Reception was very good. Resellers could use it themselves to market their business, so that typically generates a higher than normal response. We ended up with 760 partners that applied in the first 2 weeks. We had a new intern, but this was way too many for that intern to handle, so we quickly hired a new channel sales manager. The problem is we could not reply back and take new partners through the orientation fast enough. The team hadn't worked out the kinks of the orientation. The demos were not done. The result was a train wreck. The company did not have the payment processes worked out, so they weren't paying their resellers fast enough, even when they got on board. It was a good problem to have this many partners, but it was taking too long. So we lost over 200 partners before this small team could even get them through the orientation. It took over a month just to get back to everybody, and some just replied, "I'm not really interested. Thought you forgot about me." So the lesson, try to get the first 10 partners through the process, work out all the bugs, then turn up the heat. It's also critical to remember, as a shared sales force, if they don't sell your product, all else is wasted. We've discussed the almighty recommendation before, but let me reiterate, since this is one of the most important variables to track. In retail, 67% of everyone that walks into the location will ask for a recommendation. 97% will follow it, so 61% of your sales is determined by the answer that comes out of their mouth when you ask for a recommendation. With VARs, it's over 80%. They're looking for a solution. They don't always even know the product. This is your recommendation rate. This can differ dramatically by channel and product type. It also depends on what kind of reps are in that location. For example, if you're in Walmart, it's probably not best to ask them, even in their tech department, about virtual desktops. Not a real problem if you're talking to a system integrator. And like I mentioned, with VARs, over 80% of the prospects ask for a recommendation. With a clothing store, it's going to be very few. With Walmart, it's the fewest. Matter of fact, you're lucky if you can even find one of the people that are walking around with a blue shirt on. The higher the specialty, the greater the importance of your recommendation rate. Here's an example of the 5th largest software company. Mid-year sales were less than 50% of the quota. The general manager was about to get fired, so we hired Jack and myself to fix it. We were 2 of the original co-founders of MarketStar. We had a different name back then. We did a review of the promotions and showed that the company was running a big ad campaign to generate demand, but it was the wrong approach. We tested 125 different resellers, called and just asked them up, what would you recommend? The recommendation rate was 17%. Our primary competitor was 76%. So we dropped this $400,000 ad campaign that we had because there was no reason to keep sending customers into the enemy's camp only to have them get switched on site. We diverted $67,000 of that money to the channel budget to train the resellers, get them to use our product to increase that reseller recommendation rate. 90 days later, we trained over 2,000 resellers, and the recommendation rate rose from 17% to 76%. We were now switching competitors' products to our own at the retail and VAR locations. We finished the year at 290% of quota and took out the competition. With the comp plan multipliers, our bonus was over 700% of the bonus amount. The GM and the team made a ton of money, so much the GM told the channel managers, the 2 of us, said, "Look, you guys made me rich. I paid off my house. I got over $1 million bonus." So Jack and I were nicknamed Channimals, short for Channel Animals, and it stuck. So Jack headed up channels as a VP for Autodesk. He's now been there for the last 16 years. And in my case, I picked up Channel.com and was a VP at GE, Senior VP of Motorola, launched Netscape, AOL, and I've helped build over 400 channel programs. It started from the experience and even learning about some of these critical ratios of what works best in the channel. Let's discuss how to increase the recommendation rate. Resellers sell what they know what they use, so we need to make sure that we get them to use your product. Also train them on the product, the competition, and the positioning. They must recommend your product when asked, what do you recommend? Critical when you're using a shared sales force and they have alternative products to sell and recommend. This all started with a company called TempReps. Ellen Hall was the CEO of a peer-to-peer networking software company. They tried advertising, PR, direct mail, trade shows to get the prospect to buy his software. Nothing was working. Many of his own resellers were unaware of all of his product benefits, and not wanting to lose a sale, would switch prospects to a product they were already familiar with. In desperation, he hired a 10-person team of college students to go across the nation during the summer to train his resellers to personally use his product. He figured they would use what they knew and recommend what they used, and he was right. Surprisingly, it was a raving success. His software took off, was soon acquired, and it saved his company. Alan learned the value of branding the reseller reps. Soon after that, he formed a company called TempReps, which was temporary representation for a new product launch to help other companies increase their recommendation rate of resellers. The company ended up helping over 150 other companies: Sony, Lotus, Microsoft, Corel, Intel, IBM, WordPerfect, Ashton Tate, as it grew from 13 of us to over 4,000 employees in only 4 years. It became the world's largest high-tech product launch company. We formed 4 other divisions: TempReps, Bliss America, Intratech, and Data Now, with a holding company called Technology Advancement Corporation, all because it discovered the value of this almighty recommendation rate. It's now known as MarketStar, and Jack and I were the original 15 employees. So we have to get them to use our product. So we use a not for resale NFR, get them the full product to use. They can't resell, just mark it as NFR. And NFR copies with SaaS would just be SaaS access, and it works well. If it's a physical product, provide incentives for them to use your product. Microsoft would sell a $99 mouse to the sales reps for $5. It's a perk to resellers and their sales reps. However, what we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. We want to make sure that they have some skin in the game. Even a cheap price $5 works better than free, or even a small little quiz where they've just got a little bit of effort into it. We also have to realize that these resellers, they're our salespeople. They're not our end users. So how much do you charge your own salespeople for the product? If you treat the channel any different than your own sales reps, then you have the wrong perspective. However, if it is hardware, you have a physical cost. You don't need to make a profit, but you shouldn't be out if they don't use it. So it's generally fine if you sell it at the cost of goods, which is why Microsoft would sell a mouse for $5, but not for $99. The real key is not that they're paying for your product, it's that they've got some skin in the game. So I've given the example before of Ashton Tate, the CEO, the necessary evil, and of his resellers. He gave away 5 full copies of 5 of their top products, so 25 free copies per location that we were able to drop off. And then one of our divisions that measures ratios called Data Now surveyed the partners after they got it for free. 76% didn't install it, let alone use it, which is what we want. However, the ratio flipped. 71 installed when they paid some money or did something to earn it. If you don't charge, make them pass a basic test. Something to put a little bit of skin in the game. Even a basic little reseller quiz. There's a link in here and in the bottom of this section that shows an example of what that reseller quiz looks like. That's the end of part 1 of Partner Enablement. Thank you very much.